LSU head coach Brian Kelly rolls into Nashville, Tennessee all of a sudden for SEC Media Days. You've been on vacation, so I assume that went well.
Oh, it went great.
Yeah.
I made it back last night, so that was the only if there was going to be a hitch, that was going to be it. So we're all ready to go.
So we sat in a room in a different city this time last year, and people were throwing around the F word, which of course is fit. And everyone was trying to school me on what kind of fit you were in Louisiana around LSU, and a lot of people were of the opinion that there wasn't a fit.
Right.
Some of us disagreed. You kind of blocked it out, went about casually winning the SEC West, and now a year later no one talks about that anymore.
Right.
So what has that whole process been like of shutting people up? Your goal is to win games.
Right.
It just so happens you shut people up in the process,
Right.
and so now a year later, different set of questions. Now it's all of a sudden, can the guy make the playoff? Forget about fit. Can the guy make the playoff? What's that transition been like?
Well, I think it's natural into year two that you have higher expectations. So they know that this football team has improved. We took over a team that had 39 scholarships, and we got to the SEC West Championship. Now, that's not enough. That's not the standard at LSU. But that next step is getting to the playoffs and giving this team an opportunity to win a championship. So I like the expectations. That's why I came down here from the very beginning. It was to be challenged by the best, and I believe that the best is in the SEC.
When you came in, I remember you talking about having to implement your culture, which a lot of coaches talk about.
Sure.
Sometimes it's a bigger uphill battle, job to job. I always equate it to like getting on an on-ramp on the interstate. It takes a little while to get up to speed. Yeah. And once you're up to speed, you still got to drive, you still got to maneuver, but at least you're going as fast as everyone else.
Yeah.
Can you please take fans as much as you can through the process of organization building? Because you're not there just because it's week one of year one. You're still kind of feeling things out, implementing your way. Do you feel like you're up to speed now, and how long does that really take?
Well, I would say that from an organizational standpoint, we have got a strong foundation, but you're still building. And I don't know that anybody ever stops building, but for us, we've got the right people in the right places that touch the players on a day-to-day basis. We've created a high-performance environment in a very short period of time with the right people. Now we need to continue to build on that. The resources are outstanding at LSU. It was one of the draws that got me there. But we have to continue to build on those things within our program. Look, we're looking for consistency from our players on a day-to-day basis, and we're looking for that in our program. We've only done this once, and we need to do it over and over and over again, like Alabama, like Georgia. Those teams are consistent. We're not consistent yet. That's the next stage for us.
I think a lot of times fans watch games. They know you study film of games, you study film of opponents. The whole process of self-scouting. Probably during your bye week, you do it a lot during the season, but then after the season, you're assessing everything from your recruiting staff to your assistant coaches. But when you look in the mirror, number one, how do you assess yourself? And number two, what kind of outside voices do you use to get feedback on yourself?
Well, number one, we have a number of ways for us to look internally at what we're doing week to week. We don't wait till the end of the year. I think you have to be able to check yourself from week to week. And I think that has changed things for me over the last 10 years, is that I don't have to wait till a bye week to kind of get that information. We can do it from week to week. I think as we look at us from a larger, 35,000 feet, how I'm doing my job on a day-to-day basis, I look towards my directors and my leaders within the program and get feedback from them. Look, if they can't weigh in on things like that, they'll never truly buy in. So giving them the opportunity to have those discussions on the things that I can do better or need to do better, that's when you have a cohesive, collaborative organization working together.
It's preview magazine season. So there's a nice entire synopsis of what you need to do on one page in a magazine. But when you look at your organization, you look at your team, everything's a work in progress. But there always seem to be one or two real pivot points on a team. And it's going to go north or south based on this and this. As basic or as broad as you can be, what are a couple of those pivot points on the LSU team?
Well, let's assume we take injuries out of this,
Yep.
right? Because everybody's got to deal with injuries. If no injuries are part of this, we're going to have to solidify the back end of our defense at the cornerback and safety position, which is going to allow us to be better at getting off the field on third down. We were not very good at getting off the field. We're going to have to do that. We saw that later in the year where we kind of tailed off a little bit defensively against A&M and again against Georgia. If we're better there and we continue to play with a physicality up front with our offensive line, then this football team is going to be in a good position. If we struggle running the football, if we struggle with physicality up front, and we can't get off the field again on third down, this football team is not going to have the same kind of success. So we know where the areas are, and of course that's where we went to work in the offseason.
You guys have embraced the portal. There are differing philosophies out there. It's pretty obvious what yours is, and you're talking about the back end of the defense. And we're in an era where you just have the luxury afforded to you to do things in terms of talent acquisition you could not have done 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I think there's always this misnomer from an outsider's perspective when we're approaching a season. Oh, those coaches know what they have in there. I can't wait to find out what they know. But even you're around these guys every day. How can you really know when you take that many guys out of a portal in that same position room, how can you ever really know what's coming?
You don't, and that's why there's still a red flag that flies over our program in a sense of, if you really evaluate where we are, you would say that's too many guys to take out of the portal. And it was on defense. It wasn't on offense because we're ahead of where we are. But we're still a year away from a recruiting standpoint where it's player development with freshmen and developing your players from within and not having to take 12 guys out of the portal on defense. So if you're really looking at it carefully, it's a red flag because you don't know until you get out there whether Zay Alexander, who we took from Southeast Louisiana, is going to be the field corner that we expect him to be. Those are a number of the questions that we have going into the season.
When you look forward to the season, and then you juxtapose it to where you were last year, you obviously had expectation of what competing in the SEC is going to be like. Then you experienced it. So how did the experience match the expectation?
I think it was probably a little bit more than I had thought, in a sense that, you go on the road against Auburn. Auburn's having an average season. And that place is sold out. It is rocking. It's an incredible atmosphere. You go to the Swamp and you can't hear yourself think. I mean, going on the road in the SEC was an incredible, I think, eye-opening experience for me in terms of how you need to prepare your football team. It is difficult to win, period, in the SEC, but even more so on the road. So that was really good for me to see that, because you got to take the appropriate measures to get your team ready for those tough games.
I'll get you out of here on this. You can go 30 minutes or 3 minutes. I wouldn't advise 30, but when you look at producers, I saw a bunch of nods of heads. When you've been a head coach over 30 years, which just is a wild stat,
right?
And you haven't taken a year off. You've just done it over 30 years consecutive. Go back to your 7th year in, your 9th year in. If that guy could see Brian Kelly circa 2023, how different are those people? And like, which areas, which compartments specifically have you altered the most?
I would say probably my relationships with the players. I was a play caller, virtually my entire career. So if you can think of the day, right? The day is set up where you're in meetings most of the day. You don't get a chance to see the kids go through the performance center and in the weight room, in the training room, because you're locked up in meetings. Now I get a chance to be with those players. And so that connection with your team is so much different than it was when I was a play caller and being involved in meetings all day. So I enjoy it more. I feel like I'm more energized because of it, because we're all in it for the same reasons. We're in it because we love the relationships with our players, and getting that in the back end of my career has been really amazing.
Here with LSU quarterback Jayden Daniels, and Jayden, last year, LSU, I don't know if anybody expected that. I know you guys did internally, but just take me through last year from the Florida State game, which was one of the wildest experiences maybe you've ever been in, to going to Atlanta.
It was a roller coaster. A lot of ups and downs throughout the season. Started with the Florida State game. It's, like you said, something I never experienced of what happened, how you lose a football game, and just how a football game transpired. But throughout the season, we had a couple win streaks. Won a couple SEC games, and then lose to Tennessee at home. Probably an embarrassing loss that we dealt with. But it was a great team, that caliber of offense. Going out there, we knew that we had a long way to go. And then after that, I just feel like we just started finding our groove, rattling off wins, and somehow, some way, we ended up in Atlanta. Just to get that experience to say that in our first year we won the SEC West and got to compete for an SEC championship. If you this time last year, we knew what we were capable of, but if anybody said that that's what we were going to do, it was a long way for us to go because we kind of didn't even know each other then, and didn't know what to expect from each other on the field when we played with each other.
Brian Kelly was in here earlier, and he said that coming from Notre Dame, he really didn't really know what to expect from SEC stadiums. He said Auburn and Florida specifically, wild atmospheres. You coming from Arizona State, I'm sure you had to deal with that too. What was that like for you after playing 3 years in Arizona, or Arizona State, I should say?
It's different. I mean, probably the biggest stadium I played in at my time at Arizona State was my freshman year when we played Michigan State away. That was a big game, but it was nothing to the magnitude of traveling to the SEC away opponent, away schools. Auburn, running out that tunnel, you just see everybody just anxious, and they come out and they jump on us early, and the crowd is in it. So we had to overcome that. But after that, I'll say that I was pretty fine. Florida, I would have fun at Florida. Florida was a great atmosphere. Growing up, you see the swamp, and you see just the history behind that. You see when Tim Tebow and them were there, how packed the games were, how into it the fans are, how much they care. So, I mean, it was a shock at first, but after that, I feel like you hunker down and you start to get comfortable and used to things.
You got better and better as a passer as the season went along last year. What specifically in that department have you worked on during the offseason?
Just continue to build the timing with my receivers. Last year in offseason, I'm still trying to figure out. They're trying to figure out who the starting quarterback was, what was going to happen, how people were going to maneuver around in the offense. So now I know those are my guys. My guys are out there. When I'm out there and we're practicing, I'm taking snaps. I know that I have Malik Neighbors out there, Kyron Lacy, Brian Thomas. I know those guys, and then the rest are going to fall into after. But I know those three guys are the guys. So we just built our time and our trust, and we hold each other accountable. That's the biggest thing that we did in this offseason.
What's it like for you as being a runner, knowing that you've got, I think it's 94% of your production back on the ground? A lot of that is spread out over a lot of different players, yourself included. How do you plan to build on that after what happened last year?
I mean, we got to adjust. Obviously, teams are going to be game planning for us with a year of film to watch on us. So we got to adjust. But, it's a great feeling knowing that my running backs are coming back. Just the entire offense is coming back, O-line, playmakers outside. So, we got to adjust, but know that we're coming with something different also.
I know you guys don't care about odds,
Yeah.
but your name is high atop some of these odds boards for the Heisman Trophy. How does that make you feel?
It's an honor, it's a blessing to be even recognizing the prestigious award like that. That a lot of people that had great college career, great success in college have won. Obviously, it's the preseason odds. Get your name out there. It starts talking about people talking about you. Eyes are on you, but I mean, nothing really matters until you start playing in September. And then it starts to show who really put that work in the dark. And then, like I said, my saying, what happens in the dark always going to come to the light. So if you put in that work in the dark and you win football games, none of that else matters until the end of the year.
We're here with Josh Williams, running back for the LSU Tigers. I guess first things first. What's that suit, man? What are you working on here?
Thank you, man. It's basically the suit my dad put together for me. I told him I wanted to basically keep it LSU colors, but I didn't want it to be a purple suit, and he went out and did his thing.
Looks good.
Thank you so much.
It looks good. So year one for Brian Kelly, obviously, I don't know if it outlived your expectations, but outside, I don't think anybody really expected you guys to be in Atlanta. What was that like for you?
It was a big deal for me. Playing in the SEC championship, actually playing in it was my second time being in the game, but actually playing in it and being a part of the game, it was a big deal for me. I wasn't 100% healthy, but was able to go out there and play for my team and give everything I had.
You said it's your second time in the SEC championship game, even though you didn't play in 2019. That means you've seen a lot in your LSU career. What have you learned going from the highest of highs, potentially the lowest of lows, and then back to Atlanta? How has it shaped you as a person and a player?
I would say I've learned that consistency is a big deal. And not only a lot of guys look at football and it's like, oh, if I work out hard today and I do this and I'll be great. Well, I just stayed consistent. I didn't go out and do anything extra. I just came to work every day, put my head down, and stay consistent. And I feel like that's what has been a testament to my success.
So last year, your first real chance to be a number one running. Although at running back last year, you guys were really deep. You kind of shared carries. But you were the star running back of that group, and yet Jayden Daniels led you guys in rushing. How do you work with him on the ground in this system, and how does it keep you fresh knowing that you're going to get a lot of time, you're going to keep some tread on your tires?
Jayden is one of the most versatile quarterbacks in the SEC or in college football for that matter. Him being able to pull the ball and run gives me the opportunity to hit the holes more, you know what I'm saying? Because the linebackers are worried about Jayden now. They're worried about him pulling or him throwing the ball outside of the box. So him being that versatile just gives everybody in the running back room that much more confidence, honestly.
So every day in practice, you have to go up against one of the best players, if not the best player in the country, in Harold Perkins. What's that like?
Iron sharpens iron, literally. Every day going against Perk it's fun. It's really fun because you're going against the best of the best. And you know you're going against the best of the best. And he's very competitive. Like he doesn't like to lose at all, and I don't like to lose. So I mean, it's always fun when we go against each other. I love it.
Last thing, you being a veteran, complacency is something that elite teams, sometimes struggle with. You guys struggle with that after the 2019 season. How do you avoid that as a leader?
As a leader, I've learned this year just to becoming more vocal and bringing guys with me. Not just telling guys what to do, going out there and doing it for them and have them come and do it with me. I think that's a big thing that I've learned. But also just the consistency part I was talking about. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and those guys on the 2019 team, their testament and their consistency was, hey guys, we're going to have a player ran practice on the weekends. We're going to throw balls. We're going to get this timing right. It's just going to be us, and we're going to make this right for the season. We're going to win. That went away 2020 and 2021, but it's been coming back this off season with Jayden pushing the receivers like Malik and everybody to come get extra balls and the linemen getting extra work. So I think that the energy and the positivity level is rising back in Baton Rouge.
Last thing, Florida State, week one. We all know what happened last year. Florida State in week one, one of the wildest games, maybe the wildest game of the year. What is it like knowing that you're going to get them again?
It's a big thing for us. We know that we want to play them again, but it's not about revenge for us. We want to take it one game at a time and eventually graduate champions. We want to graduate all our seniors, and we want to win the national championship. And Florida State is just the first game in the way, so we're just going to take it 1-0 each week and just do it like that.